Hey guys, so I came up with an idea to do a kind of particular video on material selection, and this is I guess what I am going to call part 1 of 2. So it's going to be talking about selecting your concrete paver materials, and in the next video I'm going to talk a little bit more about selecting concrete wall stone. But I just want to kind of go over what we look for when we're selecting materials, and kind of talk about the different types of materials, and hopefully help you guys out when you're meeting with clients and talking about materials, and you yourself selecting what materials, kind of what companies you're going to use, because as most of us know, there is a huge difference from one brand to another. So I'm not going to get into what brands I think are the best or which ones are terrible. You guys can message me if you're a little bit more curious about that, but I will say kind of what we lean towards and why. So the first thing, kind of the biggest thing when selecting your pavers is just kind of knowing the different types of pavers. So first we have our actual paving stones. So these are smaller scale paving stones. We have our paving slabs, which are larger scale. This is really what's becoming big now, or really has been big for probably the last 4 or 5 years. And then now we have new things like paver planks. So these are, I think, kind of the next big thing. You know, slabs have been the big thing recently, and I think will continue to be, but now planks, kind of more like tile pieces, are going to, I think, become really big. So those are what I consider to be kind of the 3 segments of paver types. Then within that, you can really go crazy. I'm not going to go nuts on talking about all the different paver types and finishes and all that, because, you know, obviously we have our smooth pavers like these planks are, and you have some finished pavers. You can see this has some undulation. We have our smooth paver here, so I'm not going to go too much into that, but that's kind of more of a personal preference thing for both you as a contractor and the customer. We do also now have dry cast pavers, which are your normal paver, which are just about all these, and then we have our wet cast pavers. Wet casts are really cool. They look really, really good. They're very expensive, but they also have a little bit more difficult of a time manufacturing wet casts, so sometimes the tolerances are a little bit off. So both for wall block and pavers, they may not stack quite as perfectly as a dry cast material would. So really what we look for when we're selecting our pavers is really just the quality, you know, the mix of color, and really the biggest thing that's gonna, in the long term, be the most important thing is the density. The density is what gives these materials their, really I'd say their most of their quality long term. The more dense the material, the longer it's gonna last, the less it's gonna wear. So one way you can kind of figure out the densities in one product versus another is to take your regular demo saw, your table saw, and take different materials and just keep cutting them. And as you cut, you're going to find that one material may take twice as long to cut as another. And basically what that is that the density is a lot higher than of the other material. So that is super important. Most people just kind of look at a paver and say it looks nice, and that's all they care about. And obviously your finish is very important, but the density is really what I consider to be the quality of the product. One thing now too that we need to be looking at, and I think is becoming the new norm, is through mix versus face mix pavers. So almost every paver here is a face mix. I think I only have one that's a through mix. So you can see right here, this is a through mix. You can see all this aggregate in the paver. So basically over time, as this wears, you're going to start to see that aggregate even more. So now what most of the manufacturers have done and gone to is doing a face mix. So basically you can see these are almost the same products. If I put them side by side, you can see the one on the left doesn't have even close to as much large aggregate showing, and as time goes on, this material wears, you also will not see it. So basically what they are doing is doing a top layer, usually about 1/2 inch or so, of a finer aggregate. So it not only has a nicer finish, but as it wears over time, it'll continue to have the same finish. You can see the rest of the block is made out of a regular larger aggregate like a through mix paver is. So it's still getting the durability of that. So you can see it too on this. These wet cast pavers are also a face mix. So I think all of these are here. So that's a good example of the differences between those two. This is also the same paver. They're a little beat up, but you can see this is Blue 60 from Techo Blocks. So the one on the left is their regular version, the through mix, and on the right is their face mix, which they are calling HD2. If I zoom in, you can see the aggregate a lot here. You go on this side, it's a lot nicer of a finish, and the color is also a lot more vibrant. So face mix tends, I think, is really going to be the future, and it looks like it will continue to go that way. I wasn't completely sold on it as first, just because I feel like it hasn't been in the ground long enough. I don't know what happens once you wear through that face mix, but I don't know if it will ever get to that point, to be honest. So we are basically doing all face mix pavers now. So those are kind of the two finishes of pavers, what I'll call them, that you need to be looking out for. Not necessarily actual finish in terms of texture, but so the last thing I want to kind of point out when you're selecting your products is just dealer relations, obviously. So that's really important, like anything, and I always preach about that when you're buying a truck or a machine. As important as it is to have a good product, like I'm a cat person. The most important thing to me is my dealer and my dealer support and the sales staff and all of that. So same thing with pavers. You need to be looking for that in both your local dealer as well as the corporate. So let's say these are all Unilock products right here. Then we have a couple Techo Block pavers right here. So those are the two paver and wall block manufacturers that we use. They are the only two that we use. We prefer not to use anything else. These are the only two that I sell. As far as pitching to customers, if someone asks us to do something else, we will do it, but I will give them my full honest opinion on one product versus another. So I'm not going to say any more than that. But we have had really good dealings with these companies. And I'm not saying that you may go through another company who doesn't make a good paver and they won't have good relationships with you, but it's kind of a combination of everything. So hopefully you guys like this video and get some information from this. Let me know what you guys think about kind of everything I talked about. If you guys have any input on what you look for when you're looking for pavers or wall block. Like I said, I'm going to do a similar video, a little bit more in wall block. Probably going to be a very similar concept, talk about a lot of the same stuff, but there's a couple other things you need to look at when selecting wall blocks. So that's it for today, guys. Once again, let me know if you guys have any video suggestions, and I will see you guys soon.